culture and the principle embedded in the DNA that really made enforcement possible.
And Yvonne said that, like, when people broke nonviolent discipline, right, that they were more afraid of the movement than, like, the police even, right?
It's true, it's true.
Yeah.
I don't really like to say that
Yeah,
example
like-
because it's a little coercive, but the point is that the group was so committed to nonviolent discipline, it was part of the culture, and they knew the consequences of it, that when people broke it, everybody was furious and angry at those people because they felt like they were screwing everybody, you know? And so they didn't have to do anything. They said they would have rather turned themselves into the police than the movement. So
So team, let's take a quick breathing. I also know that all of you are madly taking notes, which is awesome, but I actually want to guide you before we go into plan format in what's already in your guide. So actually, if you go to page 121, I just want to make sure that you know that we already taken, we kind of anticipated it was from the lab, and we front-loaded it with a participant.
what?
121, 121. And there's a piece called How to Catch a Whirlwind in a Sail, Momentum-Driven Organizational Structures. And it pretty much details the DNA elements. If you start going to page 127, which is a couple pages later, you still see it about front-loading, mass training, core leadership. So I just want to say that we already written some of the stuff down so you can go and explore later and read more about it. Okay? So make sure when you take a break, if you want to read more, rock and roll. So that's one. The second one that I want to point out is that page 157, page 157. And that's called the 10 Principles to Create Strong DNA. So I know we've been referring a lot back to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, about the swarm-wise other ones. Here's text so that you can figure out what are some of those 10 principles, okay? And it actually, if you look at a couple pages later, in page 173, there's an example of the principles of 99 Rise, which is the organization that Paul and Kai and others are running, currently doing a margin. So you can see some examples. We have to kind of make your own, but just so you see some examples around this. Okay. Is this good? Yes? Okay, now I want you to go finally to page 107. Which is what this is about. And can everybody say plan format? Nice. Okay, good. Plan format is pretty much, actually go to page 108. I wish we had this graph up there. That graph is pretty awesome. No, you can. This one right here. Good. So pretty much plan format is this. So if you really see it, it's like your DNA. The plan format is what allows people to translate the DNA into actual action. So it's the group planning process of the DNA. Meaning telling people this is the this is like the boundaries of the strategy, right? This is what you can make plans around. But it's in a specific process. And here you can see the process more in detail. We're not gonna go into what plan format is and how to create good plan format. But what it essentially is that it allows people to have a system or a process of planning that it's clear with the strategy. So that when people are in a strategy meeting and they're saying, okay, what are we gonna do that? What action we're gonna do? They cannot do it, they cannot make any plans outside of the DNA. But it allows a lot of creativity for planning. But it's a process for planning. So, let me see. For example, in the DREAM movement, through mass training, we will take people through a tactical training, right? People will go and start planning their story, planning their teams, right? How many people are going to that kind of NOI training? Right? Perfect. There's a strategy part in the NOI training. Is that true or not? That people go and do a timeline. We do one action first. It's the same similar process. So in your training, you have to have a process where everybody knows, okay, well, first of all, everybody has to repeat the theory of change at the beginning. This is what a theory of change is. And we cannot do any plans that do not fit with that theory. Is this making any sense? Because then that's how we hold the DNA to the constant planning of the movement. Because the movement is going to make a lot of plans, yes or no? Perfect. Okay, so that's pretty much the action formula.
Midwest Academy Strategy Chart is another version of the plan format. There's many different versions of the plan format. It's a ritual that groups go through to strategize, so they can be autonomous and do whatever they want, but it helps them you translate the DNA into action.
The cool thing about the plan format, in addition to all this other stuff, is that it can be used basically at every level of organization. So whether it's a tactic or a campaign or even a strategy for like a multi-stage campaign, you can use the same process. So you're actually training folks at the mass ground level how the people at the higher levels of organization are thinking, and it kind of creates a fractal.
Fractal.
It's awesome. Yeah, it kind of creates a fractal.
Mind blowing. Yes. Somebody? No? Okay. So that's the action form. Now let's go to the last one. We already kind of talked about the online organizing quite a lot today. Paul, is there anything you want to add? I mean, we kind of already talked
No,
about
I
it.
think we did the online.
Yeah.
So online organizing is part of the DNA too.
It's part of it. We have to think through it. So team, this is pretty much the DNA. Can you give a high five to somebody and say, thank you for the DNA? So team, I want you to look, I just want to point out a couple more things because I think this is important. In your last 2 pages, you have our handy dandy DNA chart. So when you want to start filling it out whenever you want, you can put it on top of your bed, you can frame it out, whatever you want to do with it. But it's just that we're just trying to make easy accessible tools. This is like a plan format for your DNA. Practical. Okay? Is this making some sense? So we just want to guide you here to some of the resources in your guide around this. Now, we just went through a couple of more elements. We're just going to do, it would be great if we can take a couple of minutes to go find somebody that you talked to least this week and share about what are you getting from this last part of the session. We'll get in a circle, we'll debrief, we'll close, and we'll send you up in a break. Is that good? Okay, go find somebody, go find somebody.